Hi, I'm Mavis, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about 120mm film today, but specifically going to be loading it into my Diana F Plus camera. So a lot of people are going to be familiar with 35mm film, which comes in these little nice tubes like this. But not a lot of people know about 120mm, which is obviously a lot larger than this. To give more perspective to you, if you look at 35mm film, this was a busted camera, so I have the sheet here. This is about as big. This is as big as it gets. The 35, and this is 120, so you can see there's a huge difference in the actual negative itself. So today I'm going to be filling my Diana F Plus with Ilford Delta 400 professional black and white film. You can get backing for Diana F Pluses that will do 35mm, and if I remember correctly, the Diana F Plus mini camera, it only takes 35mm film. If you add the backing and opt to do 35mm film in these, it leaves these sprocket holes on it, which I think is very interesting and a really nice effect to the photos once they're printed. I already have a 35mm camera, so personally I wanted to do something a little funky. So I'm just gonna flip my camera over. And now I gotta remember how to open this bad boy. It's on lock. I'm gonna switch the open switch on the very bottom, and it's gonna slide one way or the other. There we go. It's gonna slide down actually. You can see inside. Now my old sprocket wheel from my first film is left over. And it was over here, but now, as you saw, I already had it switched over, but I figured I'd show you. I'm gonna go ahead and line that up inside. These aren't always the easiest to get aligned. It's real dark and hard to see, and because the parts are all plastic, sometimes they don't sit really nicely. So I just want to make sure that's locked in there. And here's the Ilford Delta 400 120mm film. And I like that they put the little sticker there so you know it's unexposed. So if you had this in a drawer mixed up with ones that were exposed, you'll know the difference. They typically feel a little bit looser too. Okay. And naturally the paper is just ripping everywhere. Okay. So I'm gonna rip off this piece here. That's that little tab I don't need. And you'll see the backing. So what I'm going to want to do is keep this tight. I don't want it to unroll and expose all of the film. That would not be good. And I'm going to slide it in here. Best to get all that little extra piece off from that tab just to be safe. And then you carefully are going to pull the paper over. And this is where that little sprocket spool comes in handy, left over from the last roll, because I'm now going to feed this paper into that spool. So I do find that 120mm film is a little bit more tricky than getting the 35mm in there. Probably mostly because I'm terrified of exposing it. That was a bust. So I gotta remove the spool and try in. I'm gonna take a little bit more paper out. It's difficult because the sheet is actually a little bit underneath this part here. So it's hard to pull out even if you have extra paper. It gets all bent up. try to feed that in there a little bit by hand. So hopefully it has enough to kind of grasp onto it. These don't have sprocket holes, so there's nothing for it to really grab onto besides that piece that I just put in there. Excellent. And now I can kind of feel that it's going. Alright, and I think that is in there pretty good. So now I'm going to put the lid back on. I'm going to lock it, and then I'm going to watch my little mirror window here and keep turning until I see one of the first numbers. And I can already feel the paper getting a little bit tight, which is good. That means it's winding up nice. And any slack that was hopefully being pulled up. And I'm already seeing the first line. I'm going to leave it there. Oops, sorry, see if you can see that. Has an arrow pushing down, and then in this case I'm going to leave it that way. If there's any kind of light leaks on my camera, the film's not going to get messed up right away. I usually do this just to be safe, and I won't turn it until I'm actually ready to take my first photograph. So that's it. That is how you load a Diana F Plus with 120mm film. Hope you enjoyed.